Hi, everybody. My name is Rich. I'm an alcoholic,
Hey, Rich.
and it's good to see everybody. And yeah, it's good. I haven't been to a meeting in a little while, so been out of town, and it's all good. My life's. I'm blessed. My life's really good right now, and it wasn't always that way. That's for sure. And so, um, Stu asked me to speak the other night, and I was driving, and of course, I was in traffic, and I was off on this side road, so. Um, it calmed me down. It's always something happens in my life that helps me to stay sober, and I stay connected to people in the program, and that's a big part of my sobriety. I always tell people, I said, don't leave. If you're going to stay sober, don't leave here because you get out on your own, and good luck. And I can't do this on my own. So he asked me to share tonight, and so I thought I would talk about first things first. It's one of the slogans, and it's at the end of the family afterward, page 135, and they don't talk a whole lot about it. But so I looked it up on the internet, and it said. First things first generally emphasizes the importance of not drinking or using, no matter what. Thus, when an A member experiences a slip, the implication is that the member has allowed some other problem to assume a greater priority. And so that's a pretty good statement there. My priority has been since November 13th in 1990, and I just celebrated another birthday. So and that was really nice. And I love birthdays. My home's been newcomers meeting for the last 25 years, and I've seen a lot of birthdays, and I've seen a lot of people come and go, and they just keep coming, and that's a great thing because my first sponsor was. He was real big on if he saw a newcomer coming to me, he'd say, "Go over and talk to that guy," and I'd be like, "I'm gonna talk to that person." He'd say, "Well, just go do it anyway," and what he was doing was showing me how to do AA and to make it a priority to talk to new people and make them feel welcome. So if anybody's new today, somebody said one day, welcome. You don't have to do that ever again. And anybody can get sober. I'm doing it, and I know a lot of people that are doing it, and there's a lot of people here that are doing it. So I was told if I do what they do, I'll get what they got, and that's keeping it pretty simple. And I like to keep it real simple. Um, First things first means that whatever happens in my life, I'm gonna stay sober. I'm gonna ask God to help me get through whatever it is, and I'm gonna go to a meeting. And all the things that were really really bad that happened to me in my life that might have been my fault, might not have been my fault, but they were, like real important milestones in my life happened while I was sober. And I had a lot of drunk problems. I caused a lot of problems out there when I was drinking. And once I got sober, I started not having those drunk problems anymore. My problems were life on life's term stuff. And but I got to, and in the first few years in A, I had a lot of, um, it was pretty smooth. I could make it bad, but it wasn't, I had plenty of time to make meetings, and I had no excuse to not make meetings, and I had some really good people around me. And it was my birthday last Friday, so I connected with a bunch of the people that helped me when I first got here. And so it was really nice. It's been a great week. And, but everything that happened to me, I'm lucky. I had a home group at the time. My parents, when they both passed away, I was able to stay sober through that and go to my home group and cry about it. And and talk to people and get through it and not drink. And they were the first people in my life that really, really affected me when they passed away. And so uh, I stayed sober through it. I did what I was supposed to do. I talked to other alcoholics. I had a sponsor. I stuck close with my sponsor, and I got through it. And, everything happened in my life. Like, I had a lot of reservations when I first tried to get sober. I tried to get sober for 6 years. So from the time I first came to AA until I got sober, it took me 6 years. And I had a lot of reservations. I'm like, how can you get married and not get loaded at your wedding? And how could you do all, just things that I thought I had to do. And so I got married in AA and stayed sober through that. Went to an all-inclusive that was loaded. The room was loaded with alcohol. And I called them and I said, come get this stuff out of my room, please. And that was what I had to do to stay sober. And so I just knew to do that stuff from people telling me. And I was in Jamaica, it's one of them things where you're far away and nobody will know. And none of my friends in AA would know. And I still I didn't keep that stuff in there. And it wasn't tempting me to use it. So got through, got married, stayed married for 4 years, had a kid and a baby boy. And, after about a year and a half, we knew that he was not progressing right. Something was wrong. And so pediatrician had us have him tested. And said he's not talking, he's not doing any of these things, and he's not hitting his milestones. And so we took him and had him checked, and he was diagnosed with autism. And so that was another bad one in there. It changed the whole game plan. I thought that I had him made up in my mind that what this was going to be, and this changed everything. And so it got me busy, and I sat there and read this stuff on the internet about it, cried and read these books and cried and stuck close to my home group and took it to my two people in my group. And I had teachers and nurses and all kinds of stuff in my home group, and they helped me to find the help I needed. And so the people in AA brought me through that one, and we worked really hard with him, and he was really cooperative, and he worked really hard, and he's done really well. And so he's in college right now, and he's a smart kid. And everything, I could have never thought that this was all going to come out like it did. And just by working hard and he did the work. We got him there. And his mother did a lot, and I was busy working, so it worked out well. And you could have never told us that when we started. We were scared to death, and I didn't pick up a drink then. And I went and talked to people and talked about it in my meetings, and everybody knew what my problems were because I talked about them. And my first sponsor was like, he was never the guy that said, put the cotton in your mouth and take it out of your ears and listen up. He was always like, if you got problems, you need to talk about them, because if we don't know what your problems is, how can we help you? And so that made a lot of sense to me. And he's a great guy. Love him to death. I'm still real close to him, but he doesn't live here. So I also have a sponsor where I live. Like I said, my home group's a newcomers meeting, and I've gotten to watch a lot of people get sober, man. It's great. And so I love watching that. And we don't celebrate enough birthdays. And but the people that, the first things first, the people that that get that and understand that this needs to be the priority. If I don't work my life around AA, I'll get loaded, and that's guaranteed. I mean, all you get, this isn't, this, there's no mystery in AA. All you got to do is sit there and watch people and see what they do, and you can tell if they're, if they want to get sober, they'll do what it takes. And the only thing that I cannot give you, and I can give you as much knowledge as I forgot more than I can give you, because I've just gotten so much out over the years from people. But I cannot give you the willingness to get sober. You got to get that yourself. And I ask my sponsor all the time, how do I become willing to get sober? And he'd say, I don't know. He said, I pray for the willingness. And I've been doing that every day, just about since I got sober. And it works for me. Went along. I had a great job. The only thing I did besides stay sober for a long period of time is I kept that job. And there was years where I kept the job and I wasn't a very good employee, but I still kept it. And I was able to do a lot of good things in that job too. I was able to advance to the point I wanted to do. I was able to get the job I wanted, and I did that long enough that where I was able to retire and collect a pension. And so life's good now, man. I don't have, I've got good problems today, that's for sure. And, but it took a long time to get there. And so, I guess we'll just move right up to this year. And, I've been married for 25 years, and this year I turned 60, and so it's been a lot of different milestones in my life. I was just celebrating my 30th birthday, so I've been sober half my life, which is great. It's this is a great way of life, and it's not hard. It's not harder than it was to stay loaded. Staying loaded every day was a tough job, and this is never ever been as hard as that's been. So I've gotten a lot of rewards out of AA. So my wife started getting sick late last year, and then we took her to the hospital. They didn't know what was wrong with her. They came up with some answers that weren't right, and they had done this for years. And so she hated going to the doctor, saying, hey, they're just not going to tell me what's wrong with me. And so we went to the doctor early in the year, late last year, came home. She started getting worse and didn't want to go back, and so it took till she got really bad, and we went back to the hospital on, I'm going to say, about March 11th, and they were starting to talk about COVID and stuff, and the hospital was getting kind of locked down. They were starting to lock down. So we went, and she went to the hospital, and we said, look, we're not leaving here without seeing all the doctors we need to see, and we're going to get a diagnosis. And we were hoping that would happen anyway. And so we got to see all the doctors we needed to see. And the last doctor was a neurologist, and he tested my wife and tested her for, tested her muscles and stuff, and it came up that she had ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. And so that was like I mean, when he hit us with that one, it was like floored me because it's pretty much, just a matter of time before you die from that. So we just like, the hospital was getting uh, they were shutting down, and she wanted to go home. She's like, just take me home, and no more hospitals. She asked me not to take her to the hospital anymore. So we had to start planning all this, her end of life stuff. And COVID hit, and all the meetings were shut down. I didn't have any connections for the Zoom meetings, and I had phone numbers and started calling my own group members and my friends and my sponsor, and telling them what was going on, And I got a lot of Zoom contacts and started going to these Zoom meetings and taking care of my wife. And I'm like, I would get on these Zoom meetings, and after a while, I told them, like, this Zoom meeting sucks. I don't like it. I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not coming back. And the good thing for me was I was able to just take my face off of it, but I still listened to it. And it was one more way of me not leaving AA. I was able to stay in AA by these Zoom meetings. So the Zoom meeting saved my life, made me able to help my wife to get through as best we could of the situation that we had. And while she was sleeping or whatever, I could go to a Zoom meeting, or even when we were watching TV, I could go to a Zoom meeting. And half the time she didn't even know I was at one. And I was listening. And they were my friends, and these were my people that I knew. And I was able to talk to them, and I stuck with my sponsor. And anytime I went out, sometimes I just had to go for walks, and I'd talk to him for an hour straight on a walk, and I'd feel better. And so we went through this COVID period, and the doctors, we couldn't go for doctor visits, so it was all telemed. It was Zooming for medical, and it wasn't good enough, but it was all we had. And we had people coming in and out of our house, all these people coming in, and it was very made us, worried and a little apprehensive, letting all these people in, all these therapists and nurses and stuff. I mean, 5 different people coming in and out of our house every day, and I know they're going to see people that are sick too. And I'm wondering when we're going to get COVID, and so they kept asking me, every time they come, they said, do you have a fever? Have you been around anybody? And finally, one guy asked me, and I just was at the end of my rope, and I said, no, but have you, like, where have you been? And he just laughed and said, you're not the first person asking me that. And but we had to just trust them, that they were doing better than what I could do. And so we went through that, and she got worse, and the doctor that we got hooked up with was supposed to be he was the expert in the area, and we couldn't get in to see him. And so she got worse real fast, and he said, Miss Colton, I don't understand what's going on here. This isn't normal, and it's 2-year average after diagnosis. Well, she probably had this stuff for a long time, and so she lived for about 3 months, and this was it was rough. And my son and I took care of her until she passed, and this is still, we're still locked down. So I stayed sober through that too. And was able to stay close to my support group and go to my Zoom meetings. And, I continued to do what I did and what I know to do. That's all I know how to do. And it's okay, and I went through the grieving process and did the grieving counseling and all that stuff. And it's been a rough couple months, and like COVID means a whole lot to me. It's a whole different thing than just being stuck and not being able to go out. But the good part of it was if it wasn't for the lockdown, I don't think I would have been as present as I was. So that was really good, and I feel good about that. So first things first was all through that I stuck with my people and my program, stuck close to AA, and I went to Zoom meetings that I couldn't stand. I couldn't stand them for a long time, and I was able to look back on it. I always tell people I'm sponsoring and stuff. You don't get this crystal ball, but you do get to look back. And I get to look back on what happened, and all the things happened, and the Zoom happened for a reason, and everything happens for a reason. And my wife's not suffering anymore, and we are. My son and I are coping as well as we can, and luckily my home group kind of opened up right after my wife passed, so I was able to go. And I was telling these people in my home group, because it's on Zoom and they started meeting in person. And I was telling them on Zoom that, like, man, this sucks, man. I'm used to being able to go to my home group and whatever was going wrong, go there and talk and cry and get hugs and all that stuff that AA's done for me since I've been here. And so the room opened up, and my wife wasn't here, and I was able to go there and tell the people at my home group in person, which I hadn't been to a group meeting with bodies in it in a long time. And I was able to go and talk to my home group members and tell them what happened, and that I'm still sober, and that I'm going to stay sober, and that I'm going to keep doing what I was supposed to do. And that's first things first for me. And, anything that I said tonight is my opinion, but I learned it in these rooms. I learned everything I needed to know in life in the rooms of AA. I learned how to be responsible. I learned how to do what I said I would do. I learned how to I learned how to do a checkbook. I learned how to do everything in AA. I didn't know how to do anything. I came here, I was 30 years old. All I knew how to do was go to work because I needed money, and I knew how to come home and get loaded. And the rest of it was, I wasn't very good at the rest of it. And so I learned all that stuff here. And, AA saved my life. And, if anybody ever asks me when I'm sponsoring them, or they thank me for sponsoring I tell them the same thing my sponsor told me. He said, don't thank me, just do it for somebody else. And that's the spiritual nature of AA. This is the most spiritual thing you got that I know of. I want to help someone else just because I was helped, for no other reason than that person did it because they wanted me to get sober and they wanted to keep themselves sober. And so I guess I'm done. And I know one thing, first things first means that I don't leave. I'm here. And I earned my seat in AA, and I'm keeping it. And that's it. Thanks.